Hey Lisa, thanks for joining me. I'm so excited
Hi.
that you decided to sign up for a slot.
Yes, I'm excited too. I'm really looking forward to our chat.
And so funny, like you're in Australia and you're freezing, and I'm over here in Texas and it's like 100 degrees.
I don't know what that is because it's Fahrenheit and we use Celsius. So I think it's 4 degrees Celsius here right now because it's
Wow.
really early in the morning. Yeah.
Well, I don't know the conversion, but it's extremely hot. So like
Mm.
it's shorts weather. No one here is wearing sweaters or anything.
Yeah, that's so funny. Oh, I would love that right now. I love the heat. Yeah.
And we're all over here ready for the cold weather.
Yeah, and we're going into spring. So we're in spring now and then looking forward to summer. So it's like all upside down over here.
Wow. Yeah.
Everything's the opposite. Yeah.
Before we get started, let me introduce you. My guest today is Lisa Quinney. She's a mom of two girls, ages 8 and 11. She is a counselor for parents in Australia. She moved to Melbourne about 10 years ago from Germany, where she grew up. So she gave birth in two different countries, which will be interesting to hear more about soon.
Yeah.
So, the first thing that I want to know is what is your definition of a balanced life?
Oh, okay. As a mum, that's really difficult, isn't it? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so much to talk about there. I think that balance is probably a little bit like a unicorn that we're chasing, but we can't
Mhm.
ever really catch it. And I think that's okay if we are aware of that, if we just are striving to like to get to the balance, towards balance. I think
Yeah.
that's enough. And there are some really good things that I have tried to incorporate into my life to feel more balanced because I guess becoming a mum throws you off balance.
It
It
does.
does.
It really
Be-
does.
It does. It unravels you and you have to really find your center again. So I think there are a few things for me personally that happened as well because when I first became a mum, we moved countries when my child was 10 months old.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, so there was a lot, becoming a mum, trying to find out who I was, and then
Yeah.
also being an expat, living in a different country without my social
Mhm.
support network and a different culture. So that was tricky to find balance there. And then
I
also
bet.
yeah, and then
I
when
mean, because
the,
that's a lot. I'm sorry, that's a lot
yeah,
of stuff. Like, not only were you a new mom, but you're moving to a new country, learning a different culture. Like, that is like a whole lots of transition rolled up into one major
yeah,
one.
yeah, I agree. But I didn't know that at the time. So now looking back, I'm
Mhm.
thinking, wow, But yeah, and then with the second one, the second child, again, there's so much
Mhm.
change and such a
Yeah.
huge transition, and for everyone in the family as well. And that was a tough time. And
Mhm.
I'm, I guess, so I did have postpartum depression after the second child, and then, then finding balance again. I think so. What I did, where I am now, where I feel like I have a good balance, or
Mhm.
as good as it can get, maybe. Some
Yeah.
days are harder than others, but yeah. So I think it's really important to know yourself and what you need,
Yeah, it is.
self-care wise as well, and then love yourself so much that you
Mhm.
know that you deserve that self-care and that you are just as important as everyone else in the family.
Yeah.
And then to ask for that as well and to really be assertive about your needs and not taking it all on,
Mhm.
not taking all of the things that have to be done, the life admin, the
Mhm.
mental load, the emotional labor, the inner work, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like it's just
Everything,
so
everything.
much. Share it. If you have a partner, like share it with your partner and also don't take on, I think, their stuff, like what's not yours.
Mhm.
Like I feel like sometimes as women, we tend to take on too much and
Yeah.
don't put in boundaries. So what I have learned is to ask for what I need and
Mm.
to not assume that he might what he might need. I will, my husband will have to ask.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that for you. You have to do that. If things are getting too much, you have to tell me. And I'm doing the same thing. I will say, look, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. I think I need a 5 minute breather or whatever it is. So that is helping with balance.
How
Yeah.
did you how did you get to that point where you figured out what your own needs were? I know that's something lots of moms struggle with is like you said, they are juggling everything that they don't even have the time or can't even remember what it was that they enjoyed or can't even take the time to think, or they feel like they can't take the time to think about
Mm,
what their needs are. And if they do, they often will feel like there's not enough time for them to do those things.
yeah. I think that's a great question. So I think what helped was being unwell and like really
Mm.
hitting rock bottom, to be really honest, to,
Okay.
be at a point where everything was so terrible that I
Mm.
had to make changes. Like I was forced to really look at myself, what I
Mm.
was doing and what I needed. And so what changed was, hold on, I can't do
Mm.
this. And I was beating myself up about it because I didn't know at the time that I did have postpartum depression. And what happens when you have that is you blame yourself, you beat yourself up. It's like, I'm failing as a mom, I'm not good enough, I'm doing everything wrong.
Mm.
And that is a terrible place to be in. So it just broke me so much that, not that I'm broken, but you know what I mean. It
Yeah.
just hit so deeply that I just had to reassess. I had to
Mhm.
just come to a point where I had to, yeah, really look at what I needed and how to get that. And so I became a lot more assertive then. I started
Did
with
something,
meditation. Yeah,
okay,
if that's,
did something
like,
tell you
yeah.
like some things, or are you okay? Or like what led you to that moment where you thought to yourself, something has to change, things need to be different, or what led you there?
Okay. That's, yeah, I actually never told anyone that. That's
Oh,
a
okay.
really good question. No, that's deep because there was one Christmas. It
Mm.
must have been the first or second one, I guess. So, that would have been maybe 12. No. So she was born in September, like a year and a bit after the birth of my second child. So I was like really in the thick of the postpartum
Okay.
depression and not
Yeah.
knowing that I had it and not having any help, not
Mhm.
getting any support. And I was driving home from a family Christmas
Mm.
and I was so sleep deprived. I was so tired.
Mhm.
I couldn't sleep, because my nervous system was completely dysregulated. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, and my whole family was in the car. I
Mm.
just, I just want to run off the road right now. Like I just don't want to be here anymore.
Mhm.
It was
Wow.
that bad.
Yeah.
And then, I snapped out of it and I thought, oh my God, what a terrible thought to have,
Mhm.
like, and I didn't mean to like take anyone with me. I was just like, I don't
Yeah.
want to be here anymore. I just
Mhm.
cannot handle this anymore. And then that was the lowest point.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then,
that was the moment for you where you thought like this needs to change. Like this is not
yes.
okay
Yeah.
for me to be having these thoughts. Mm.
Yes. And then so and it was more like, okay, it was very practical. It was like, I'm not sleeping. I need to sleep.
Yeah,
So I started meditating to just help me to just try something out.
yeah.
And that's when I started. getting in touch with that, with that really, that self that's in there, that like the
Mhm.
old Lisa that was somewhere
Yeah.
in there.
Oh, I
And
love that
then
you said that, the old
yeah.
Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, and that feeling of being calm and being
Mm-hmm.
present and being with you,
Mm-hmm.
with yourself, taking that 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour, whatever it was, just to be with
Mm-hmm.
me, that shifted things for me. That like slowly, 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 baby steps. It took me many, many years. And then, I thought, oh wow, this is really interesting. And I looked into meditation and I went to sound healing sessions and I connected with
Mm-hmm.
other people. And, so slowly I was like, trying to find other things and meditate more often. I downloaded an app and I did all the like,
Okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
7 days of happiness or 7 days of gratefulness
Uh-huh.
or whatever, like did all this. And
Yeah.
it really, it really helped me. It really changed my life because from that, there was like a roll on effect, because I
Mm-hmm.
was showing up for myself and I was
Yeah.
identifying what I needed, that I then started to fill my own cup again so I could become a better mom. And then I started this whole self love mission where I was just like, I need to give myself what I need. I need to love myself
Mm-hmm.
first, and then I can give more. Because
Oh,
as a
yeah.
mom, you give and give and give, which is beautiful. But sometimes it feels like there's nothing left to give. There's nothing left in the
Absolutely.
tank.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah. And no one else is going to come and rescue you. There's no, magic
No.
prince or fairy godmother that comes in and
No.
makes
I
everything
mean,
better. You have to do
yeah,
that.
I mean, there
Yeah.
are some people who have partners who are very intuitive, but not everyone's partner is like that. And it's hard, to have that expectation of your partner if you have a partner, right? That
Yeah.
they should know how I'm feeling, or they should know all of these things that I'm going through, and that I must be stressed, but they're not coming to help me. That's not
Mm,
always clearly seen. So it is, our job to advocate for ourselves, but we first have to acknowledge that we need the help, because
yeah.
moms can't do everything.
That's so true. Yes. And I guess in my personal case, I'm suspecting that my husband might have also had
Mm,
postpartum depression, because it is very likely that when or the likelihood is higher when women who have
mhm,
postpartum depression, their partners have it too. So just looking back, and I'm not diagnosing or anything, but I'm just thinking,
mhm.
look, there was so much pressure on us. It was
There.
hard. He was like trying to set up his new family. He traveled to Europe, as a young guy with his friends,
Okay.
and like, had
Uh-huh.
had this like fun, carefree life in
Mm,
London and traveled Europe, and then we met. So, and then, a few years later, he moves back home, and now
mm,
he has a wife and a young family, and he has to set us
yeah.
up again. And he's the provider, so he needs,
Mm,
that's his job now. And he's working really, really hard and trying to find his feet as well,
mm,
in this whole new family life. So there was a lot of pressure on him too, and he was obviously missing his social circle as well and needed to
mm,
fill up his cup as well. And I understand
yeah.
all that. But I do think there was just not enough support there for us, as a young
Yeah.
family, trying to figure it all out, having to pay a mortgage all of a sudden, all these things, that
Yeah.
just pile up. And
It
then,
does. It really can.
yeah. So I always try to see the dad as well, or the partner as well, what is going on for them, because they are so in it too. They're so
Mm,
affected by it all too. Yeah.
yeah. So, as a perinatal professional, do you
Mm-hmm.
think perinatal mental health issues can be prevented?
I don't think in our world that we have created,
Mm,
I think there's a lot of things we can do to support ourselves, but that needs awareness. And
yeah.
I don't think there's enough out there to enough like real knowledge. There's a lot of myths, there's a lot of stereotypes, there's a lot of, I think this is when you don't like your baby, like things like that.
Yeah.
It's there's no real awareness of what it is, how it
Mhm.
shows up, and especially medical health professional. Like I tried to get help at the time. It wasn't like I was just suffering in silence, and I
Yeah.
really tried to reach out. I talked to GPs. I said to one, do you think I have postnatal depression or postpartum
Mhm.
depression? And he said, no. Like,
My gosh.
wouldn't you ask? What makes you ask that? Like
Yeah.
what is going on for you? Like, if someone was going to say that to me, like, there would be a red flag, and I would just like
Yeah.
turn all my attention to this person and say, what's going on? You
Mhm.
know? And
Yeah.
I feel for myself and all the women that are going through it and that are not heard, because
Mhm.
these things are subtle. Like that was a subtle hint, but people need to
Oh, yeah.
know that's
Uh-huh.
that's actually really big, because mums don't want to admit that they're struggling.
No.
No one,
They
no
don't.
one, no one can know because everyone's got it together. Everyone's,
Mhm.
always so
Yeah.
well put together and organized, and everyone's cooking things from scratch and baking with the kids and going to
Yeah.
the park all the time, where I sit in a corner and cry myself to sleep, and no one can know that because,
Yeah.
maybe there's something wrong with me.
Mhm.
So I wish that women had more of it, like women would have more awareness, but everyone would have more awareness.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
then we would be able to support women in a way that wouldn't make them sick. Not in every case. I think there are just some cases where there might be physiological reasons or like hormone imbalances and things like that, where
Mhm.
it's just more of an intervention needed to
Yeah.
manage that. But I do think a lot is just having the support in place, because
Mhm.
it's a lot.
It
Yes.
is. It really
So I
is.
mean, and also in addition to that, it's if you don't have a lot of money, I don't know how it is in America, but
Uh-huh.
here, the support after birth
Mhm.
is not really there. Like you can see a nurse every now and so often, and they check the baby and they will screen for postpartum depression. But
Yeah.
if there's no trust there, if it's not a warm environment, women
Mhm.
will not open up, which is okay. Like I think that's understandable. My nurse was
Yeah.
very judgmental, so
Oh,
I was not going to tell her,
yeah.
like she was always
Yeah.
making me feel worse, when I would see her. And I think
Mhm.
I did a pretty good job at looking after my children, but still, like she would always find things that weren't ideal and and
Oh my
so, every
gosh.
time I was like, oh, I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you want to open up?
exactly. So that
Yeah.
makes it hard. So I think there needs to be more support, and then
Mm.
you could ask a doula to come and help, right? Like they offer these
Yeah.
beautiful supports afterwards. They cook for you, they might give you a
Yeah.
massage, they look after the baby if you need to. Like they can really give you that
Mm.
nurturing warmth that you need once you've
Yeah.
become a mother in the first few months or even 12 months
Mhm.
after birth. So valuable, so beautiful, but it costs so much money. Like
It does.
I wouldn't have let myself have that because I
Mm.
believed I wasn't worthy of that.
Yeah.
Now it's a different story. I think if I had a baby now, I'd be like, and I'm gonna have
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
doulas.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that up. First,
Mhm.
there are some people listening that probably don't know what a doula is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And second, yes, like that point you made, like I would not have allowed myself because like having a doula can seem like a luxury.
Yes.
And but that sometimes it's so important to have those support systems. It's not a luxury. You We can't mother all on our own and take care of the baby and ourselves. And if we don't have support from family or friends, and we have to hire someone, that's something that you should do if you can afford it. And
Absolutely.
and if not, that's something to think about when you're if you know have the luxury, right, to plan to have your child, because sometimes it doesn't happen. How can you fit this in your budget to have doulas? And there's so many different kinds of doulas now. There's night doulas, there's like birth doulas, and there's child doulas. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just offering such a beautiful service. And
Mhm.
I wish that the world was more like that. It was friendly, yeah, and like
Yeah.
more nurturing and warmer. Just like, exactly what the doulas are offering. I think it's such a like I wish I've had that. It's
Mhm.
such a great thing.
Yeah.
And especially when you don't have that network, like, in my case, especially moving away from home and being completely
Mm.
removed from a social network. Like, I didn't have
Yeah.
my family, I didn't have my, and I feel like when you become a mom, you need your mom. You're like,
Yeah.
mom, I don't know how to do this. So if that's not there, then who have you got? And
Mhm.
I didn't have my friends that I knew my whole life that are like family that you can really lean on and
Mhm.
that you can have a laugh with. Like, laughing is so important, isn't it?
Oh
Like, you
yeah.
just have, like, even if everything's terrible, if you've got your best friend, you can just laugh about it, and cry
Yeah.
at the same time. It's just so good for the soul. And so all these things weren't there for me, which,
Mm.
now I'm thinking, okay, no wonder you got unwell. Like, that was just too hard
Mm.
for anyone to go
Oh
through.
yeah.
But I don't want to make it sound like I'm a victim or mums are a victim. I think what is happening in our world is that we have to become rebels. We
Mm.
as moms, we are told by society and by patriarchy that we as mums and as women
Mm.
don't hold value. And then we are conditioned to believe that we
Yeah.
don't have value. So, and that's the self-love that I'm talking about, is just like, no, hold on. Actually, I have just as much value as everyone else here.
Oh
And
yeah.
I deserve better. I deserve that my needs are being met. I deserve to sleep. I deserve,
Yeah.
I deserve the basic things in life. And I don't have to work so bloody hard every day to
Yeah.
get that. I'm gonna take it now,
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I
yeah.
love that. That's so true. Yeah. And the part to like going back, I want to go back a little bit to where you talked about how
Yeah.
you didn't trust your like the nurse that you would see, and that's
Hmm.
also because you had also questioned, I don't know what it's like in the US, and it's it's very similar. And you go back for I think two like postpartum just for the mom,
Hmm.
and the rest are all for the baby. Like there's different monthly checkups. It's not every month, but it depends. And you fill out a form, and then on those forms they're asking you all these questions. And I remembered going in for one of those. It was before I had given birth, so I was pregnant at the time with my third. So I was already a therapist, I was already licensed, so I knew the stuff. I knew the questionnaires. And I went
Mm.
in there, and the nurse asked me, she goes, "Have you been feeling depressed?" And I said, "No, I haven't been feeling depressed." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then she went on to a different subject. And
Hmm.
I asked her, what would happen if I told you I was feeling depressed? Or what if I didn't know what you meant by have I been feeling depressed? What would happen? And she couldn't give me an answer, and it blew my
Oh,
mind. I'm like, you're asking someone if they're depressed and they might not even know what you mean.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
they have this like really negative idea of what depression looks like, and they're going to say no
Mm.
because they don't want you to think something's wrong with them.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. It's really
Yeah.
tricky because that is a question I would have probably said no to that as well, because I didn't know at the time that I was depressed. My
Yeah.
husband said it. At some stage, he
Mm.
said, I think you have you might have postpartum depression. And I was like, no, I don't have that. That was
Yeah.
like my
Like, how
my
dare you tell
first
me that?
reaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, I did go on and ask my doctor because I thought maybe he's right.
Mhm.
And now
Oh my
looking back, I
gosh. And
think,
that's when they said no?
yeah,
No, you don't have that. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And the questionnaires are also really like the screening tools. I think
Mhm.
some of the questions are just so, I think there's one question on there and it says, have you been blaming yourself for no good reason? And I'm like,
Mhm. Oh,
no, I
oh
have
my,
tons of reasons to blame
oh my
myself.
gosh.
So I
Yes,
took
I know which
no,
question you're talking
right?
about. Yeah.
Like, so it's just, it doesn't, I feel like the questionnaire doesn't even understand depression, like what it actually is. And it's so, I can't even put it in words.
Mhm.
It's just, it takes you to just this really dark place, but you're still, like, I was still able to do all the things and to do all the pretending, which is
Mhm.
exhausting to other mums, and to act like I was okay. That's
Mhm.
I was able to do all that. I wasn't just sitting or laying in bed. Like, it was not, I guess, as severe as sometimes
Yeah.
you picture depression, where
Mhm.
you are not able to get up and you
Mhm.
can't even
Yeah.
go and have a shower. Like, I was able to do these things.
Mhm.
I was very, I guess, high functioning, but I was struggling. It was really hard. And just that critic, that
Mhm.
voice
Mhm.
that keeps saying you're not doing good enough. And
Mhm.
there were moments where I was so desperate because my baby was also unwell, so she had silent reflux, so she didn't
Okay.
sleep all day.
Oh.
So she was just screaming. And
Mhm.
that doctor told me, you have to stop picking her up. You are training your baby to scream
Oh gosh.
for you because she knows you're going to come and pick her up. You have to just let her scream. And,
Wow.
you know, as someone in that situation where you don't know who to turn to, and you're
Mhm.
going to an authority figure who is supposed to help you, and that's the advice they give you, what do? You do it, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what they
Yeah.
say. And or if you are a little bit, I don't know, have the capacity, you might do your own research and try different things. But honestly, I was so desperate.
Yeah.
I just listened to him. And obviously now looking back, I think I can't believe that. It was heartbreaking for me, just hearing
Oh
the
yeah.
baby scream, not being able to go there because that's wrong and I'm doing it wrong and I'm screwing the
Gosh.
baby up. I was even blamed, like I was like, well, they are blaming me and I'm blaming me. It must be
Mhm.
true,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. And then it didn't help, obviously, because she was actually physically like sick. She was in pain.
Mhm.
She had that,
Yeah.
yeah, and she had good reason to scream. And
Mhm.
so that went on for a while, and then eventually, someone said to me, have you looked into silent reflux? And I Googled and I found out, and there were just these subtle signs. I'm like, I think that's
Mhm.
what's going on. Like, I can't feed her properly. She
Yeah.
like always latches on, off, on, off, on,
Mhm.
off, and it's just like one feed takes an hour. And it's like,
Oh.
had I gotten a lactation consultant, anyone,
Oh
to
yeah.
see that, they
Yeah.
would have probably said straight away, mate, this is not
Mhm.
right, but I didn't. So again, so I went back to the doctor and I said, look, I think she's got silent reflux. And he said, well, if that was the case, she would sleep better on her tummy. And I said, well, she does.
Mhm.
But the nurse said, how would you feel about having a dead baby because you wanted a few moments of quiet?
Oh
Because
no.
I told her I was putting her on a
So
tummy because she was
horrible.
sleeping. I know. That's
Yeah.
actually what she said to me. She was like, and that's back to your question, what happened there? Why
Mhm.
was there no trust? That was the stuff that she was saying.
Oh
So
my
I was like,
God.
I'm not gonna tell her
Yeah.
it. you know, like she's just gonna, I don't know, they're gonna take my child away or something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she was just obviously concerned about SIDS, which is fair.
Yeah.
She has to tell us these things. She has to say, this is not safe. You have to
Hmm.
put her on her back. But she could have said it in a way that wasn't as confronting and as,
Yeah.
blaming. But yeah, and then that's what I said to my doctor. I said, I'm not allowed to put her on her tummy because everyone's saying, no, it's wrong.
Hmm.
But she does sleep better on her tummy. And that's when he gave
Yeah.
us medicine and she settled and everything
Mm.
became better. But yeah, it was a struggle to
Yeah.
get there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
even myself, like with my third kid, we co-slept with all of our babies. And the first one, it it was so my mom's a nurse. And so she was very much like, no, you can't do that. And so I ended up still doing it because that was the only way I could get any sleep
Mm.
because I was also breastfeeding and I felt like he just didn't want to be in the crib like at all. Like as soon as I would put him down, he would start to cry. He just wanted to sleep in my arms or near me. That was the only way I could sleep. And so that was the truth with the second. And then the third, we did it. And even during my third, going to the doctor's office, is we're in a rural area. So the pediatricians here rotate. Like each one of my children had a different pediatrician. So I didn't really make relationships with the doctors. And so I never really trusted them to tell them, like, yes, I'm co-sleeping. No, he doesn't sleep in his own crib because I was so scared of what they were going to tell me, even though as a seasoned mom of, this is my third child already, I would think, or I would have thought that I would have been just like, no, I co-sleep, but I really did not want to feel any shame or judgment from the doctor. So I said, yes, he sleeps in his own crib, which is more problematic than anything because
Yeah.
I should be able to trust my doctor so
Oh,
that,
absolutely. And that's
yeah.
exactly what I'm saying. Like, good on you, for listening to your child and yourself and to
Yeah.
create that because that's what you needed and what he
Mhm.
needed.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there is so much expectation, there's so much blame. It's so mean, the
It
world that
is.
we've created for mums. And no wonder that, we are not honest. We don't feel safe to be honest.
No.
And that's what it comes down to. There has to be more safety for us to say what is really going on without being so scared that something bad
Mhm.
might happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
you might think this GP sounds horrible. Why didn't you change, doctors? But so I did. That was my new GP because the one that I saw during pregnancy said to me, your tummy looks way too small for, I don't know, 26 weeks or something.
mm,
I think the baby has stopped growing weeks ago.
oh
You're
my
way
gosh.
too little. This is your second child. You should be a lot
Mhm.
bigger. So then
Wow.
I
How
left.
scary.
Yes. And I thought, okay, stop growing. Is he saying my baby's dead?
Hmm.
That's, and then I had to wait 5 days for an ultrasound to find out. And she was absolutely fine.
Mm.
So I did not go back there. you
Yeah.
know, that was just so wrong. And yeah, that,
Mm.
like, how can you do that to someone? And I just don't understand how are physicians who are looking after these vulnerable people who really need support and help, how are they so not aware of what
Oh
the
my God.
impact their words will have
Mhm.
on the people they see? It just blows my mind.
It is. And every time I hear stories like this, I feel like I shouldn't be shocked, but I think that would be more problematic, right? If I wasn't shocked anymore, but always shocked and amazed. Like I cannot ever believe that
Yeah.
other women and moms have gone through that.
Mm. And and again, I don't want to sound like I'm blaming them. I think it's a matter of being unaware. It's
Yeah.
just the training and the resources they have is not
Hmm.
appropriate in that space. Like then they might
Hmm.
know a lot of other things that I have no idea about, but I think it's so important. And again, this is the whole fight that the feminists fight,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
this matters. And because
Yes.
this world is run by men, it's made to not matter. Like
Yeah.
it's made unimportant. It's
Hmm.
disregarded. It's the same thing with endometriosis. Like so many
Hmm.
women
Yeah.
suffer such a, terrible, they have such a terrible time and they're not believed and no one's,
Yeah.
taking them seriously. And it's the same thing again. And
Mhm.
it's just so frustrating, to have to fight for that, but we just
Yeah.
have to keep going and be more assertive. And but yeah, it's hard it's hard to be assertive when you're
Mhm.
so unsure about everything,
Oh
because
yeah.
no mums are unsure. They
Hmm.
are, because they've never done
Yeah.
this before, and even though I had done it before, I was unsure because I
Mhm.
had done it before and now it's not working and I don't know how to settle my own child.
Yeah.
Maybe I, maybe I'm broken, maybe the baby hates me. I don't know what's going on,
Yeah. Those are those thoughts that just like
Yeah.
when you don't have the support of people telling you or your doctors telling you you are doing an amazing job or
Yeah.
giving suggestions to try
Mm.
instead of shaming you for the things that you are doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It would be so nice. Wouldn't it
Mhm.
be lovely if you would go into a doctor's office and they were just really like warm and welcoming and make you feel
Yeah.
safe and listen, and imagine they even had time. Wouldn't that be
Oh, I
amazing?
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I know that they could be like, I'm not saying, it's all their fault or anything. I'm just saying the system is set up to, and that's not their fault. They're probably really good people. And
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like I'm blaming them or I think they're
No.
evil. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's just that, yeah, it's just a matter of being educated about it and having that awareness
Mhm.
and the resources to be
Yeah.
able to pick up on this. And
Mhm.
yeah, 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 I think.
Yeah. So
Mm.
I want to give you, some space to talk about like what you do in your practice.
Oh,
And
okay.
also, I want you to be able to say that. And then I also
Mm.
want to talk a little bit more about meditation and if you
Hmm.
found that that has helped the moms that you work with.
Yeah, I guess maybe I have to expand a little bit more on how I got to where I am today, because meditation alone didn't cut it, to be really honest.
Yeah.
Like, but that was the first step, right?
Mhm.
So the first step was to find to myself again and realize and recognize what I needed and slowly go from there. And then I did, try a lot of different GPs over the
Mhm.
years and went to a psychologist. It was horrible. Like I went there
Mhm.
for all the sessions I could go there, but she didn't care. Like that's just
Mhm.
what happened. So, then I was like, oh, I tried this, I tried that, what else? And then, so I also had like lots of physical symptoms like migraines and
Mhm.
insomnia. And yeah, so I just felt like I needed to do something still, I needed to find a cure for these things.
Mhm.
So that's why I kept going and tried to kept finding help. And then
Okay.
eventually I found out like I started my own like studies and kept
Mhm.
reading books and trauma keeps the
Yeah.
score, and I was like, oh, that sounds a lot like what I'm going through. And then I was like, later on diagnosed with PTSD, which then I thought,
Mhm.
oh, that makes so much
Okay.
sense,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, so what I found was really helpful in therapy was I did a lot of neurofeedback. Not sure what
Mhm.
it did, but I'm sure it helped me a lot
Okay.
because I was then able to, do IFS and EMDR. So
Okay.
IFS is an internal family systems therapy, which I read a lot of books about and did some workshops and groups too, because I just absolutely loved it. What IFS is you referring to different thoughts or behaviors
Mhm.
or emotions parts. There's a part of me that is
Yeah.
doing this or that. And then
Mm-hmm.
you create a relationship with that part from yourself, from a
Mm-hmm.
place where you are compassionate and curious and calm and connected. And
Mm-hmm.
when you are in that place, you can then have a conversation with that part and hear more about why it is doing its job and so on. So I've been doing that for a while,
Okay.
and then also seeing my psychologist. And then I said, okay, I want to, and we tried EMDR as well to help with the PTSD symptoms, and that was really
Mm-hmm.
good. There's one breakthrough moment that I really would like to share because it was so powerful. So there's this mum guilt that we all know
Okay.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it was like a PTSD symptom, basically, like that voice
Mm-hmm.
that I was telling you before about that was shaming me and like blaming me and telling me
Mm-hmm.
all the horrible things that I was doing wrong. And I
Yeah.
had that, it was like clinging to me
Mm.
every day, every second of every day. It would just,
Wow.
it was telling me you have to be more present. You have to, you got angry earlier. That was not okay. You can't get angry at
Mm-hmm.
your children, or all
Mm-hmm.
these things. But of course, you get angry. That's sometimes that just happens. But I didn't have that compassion, and because that voice, that part, didn't give me any space. So in IFS, you say you have to create a trusting relationship with that part for it to trust you enough to let go of what it is doing and find a different job. So this part I was talking to for a while because it was so strong, so clear. And he had two prongs, shame and guilt, and he was just stabbing me with
Okay.
this. And I said to him, so would you stop doing that? Because it's actually like, is there any way you could just do it less, or because
Mm-hmm.
it's actually really unbearable? And he said, no way. And I'm like, oh, why? And he
Yeah.
said, well, I'm making you a better mom. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to be better. And I do that for you. Like my job is to make you a better mom. So that's the most important thing. So
Yeah.
I will not stop doing what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. And I was like, okay. So in IFS, you can't overrule parts. And so I was stuck. I was like, okay, I don't know how to go from here. And
Mm-hmm.
so in IFS, they say you just have to keep talking with them and keep showing up and, building that trust. And eventually they will soften and you will be able to heal them.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was we did an EMDR session during a psychology session, and the
Mm-hmm.
part was with me. So I was, just
Okay.
standing next to me, and we were doing the EMDR about a memory that
Mm-hmm.
was very distressing. And somehow that helped the part to realize, oh my God, I'm hurting you the whole time. And I said, yes. And the part was like, I am so sorry. I didn't realize that I was doing that to you. And he dropped his prongs,
Mm-hmm.
his weapons, and he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he was like teary, and he was like really shocked, really shocked. It was like it
Yeah.
final the penny dropped. And I said, that's okay. I know you were just trying to help. That's all good. I know that
Yeah.
you didn't mean any harm. And he said, I really didn't. I'm so sorry. And we hugged, and I
Yeah.
could hold him. And it was so beautiful. We had such a relief. So that session was so powerful. I drove home that day on a cloud. I was
Mm.
so much lighter. And I thought, oh my God, is this how people live? Is this, you know, is this
Yeah.
what it feels like to live life? It was just, I was finally free from this, that dark energy and that in his
Yeah.
grip. And it was just so powerful. And
Wow.
I'm not saying that I don't hear a critical voice every now and then, but it is way less cruel. Like, it's
Yeah.
not as cruel. It's very quiet. Every then now and then
Mm.
there's a reminder, like, oh, maybe you could put a little bit more effort into playing with the
Oh.
kids today. You know, it's a lot more gentle, which is, you know, it's not as
Mm.
yeah
It's
as
able
it
to do
used
its
to be.
job now.
Mm,
Hmm.
yes, yeah. So that's so in my practice, I use tools from IFS
Mm,
because
okay.
it really helps to identify, what I love about it is just like it's a part, it's not me, it's part of
Yeah.
me, you know?
Yeah.
So it just gives you that wholeness of like I'm unbroken,
Mm,
I'm whole, I'm divine, I'm worthy, and there are
yeah.
parts of me that are
Mm,
struggling and that I can be there for with love and compassion. And yeah,
yeah.
that's just such a beautiful way of looking at it.
It really is.
And yeah, and I just try to create that warm space that I was talking about
Mm,
earlier, for the women I see, just that nurturing warmth that I needed so desperately, and to cheer them on, because they are
yeah.
doing such a great job, and they, doing it so well. But we
Hmm.
tend to beat ourselves up so much, and we're so mean to ourselves sometimes,
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'm really trying to be that for women,
Mm,
and also their partners. I think dads play a really big role, or if it's a same-sex relationship, the partner plays a big role, even though it's not the primary caregiver or the birth parent. So I always try to have them in the picture as well. But yeah, it's all about that holding space, for
yeah.
women. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate you sharing because I mean, you shared so much. You were so vulnerable today, and I really appreciate it. I know your story is going to help so many women. If do you only work with women in Australia, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I do. I only work with
Okay.
women in Australia. It's like an insurance thing. So I can
Okay.
really,
Yeah. Yeah.
offer my services elsewhere. But
Mhm.
yeah, I offer online sessions for women in Australia. I offer face-to-face sessions where I am in Geelong. And I go for walks with women as well, so we can just walk and talk. The baby can come, they're always welcome.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how I work. And I really like to connect with all the services that are around as well, like to really have, all the doulas in my
Yeah.
referral list, because
That's
I'm such a
awesome.
fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
lactation consultants, sleep consultants, and all the support that we need. So yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so if anyone in Australia is listening and they
Mhm.
wanted to work with you, what is the best way for them to contact you?
Probably through my website. So that's www.walkwithlisa.com.au, and or Instagram at walk.with.lisa. So that's where I'm active as well, and where I share how I look after myself and what self-care looks like for me,
Okay.
and just to also raise awareness of what it looks like to be unwell,
Mhm.
like mentally or emotionally unwell after the first, few weeks after birth and so on.
Yeah.
So yeah, just shoot me an email or call me, and yeah, I'd be happy to connect.
Awesome. And don't worry if you're listening, all of that is going to be in the show notes. So don't try and if you're driving, don't try and like write this down anywhere. It's going to be in the show notes just for you, along with a little bit more information on what IFS is, because I know not all of you are familiar with IFS. So I'll put a description in the show notes as well. And
Beautiful.
thank you so much, Lisa, for your time and for joining us today. And I hope the rest of your week goes well.
Thank you so much, Kayla. I really
Thank
loved it.
you.
Thanks.